Hi, Yvonne here. Well, I hope you're in the mood for some Christmas cards. I want to do a demonstration today on how to make your own background for your Christmas cards using the stamp set Leaves of Holly. And there we go. Okay, start off with basic white 8.5 by 11. And I'll show you, here's what I made with one sheet of paper, the background. I'll give you some ideas. And I've made this 2 or 3 times now, and they're all come out different. So, let's get cracking. Basic white, 8.5 by 11. And I'm going to start off with, I always do my light to dark. So I'm going to start off with garden green. With this large holly. And I'm just going to stamp it. Make sure I'm really good and inked up. And I'm just going to start about here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Could have done that one a little farther out, but that's okay. It'll make for a different, every time it's a little different. Okay, now I'm going to darken this overlay with this holly, with the large one with shaded spruce. And this beautiful set, if you don't get it lined up perfectly, it's okay. It kind of adds to the dimension of the holly. So I'll try to keep my head out of the way here. So if I miss totally, that's how come. No, haven't got one yet, right? So I'm just going to rotate this. And you know, I don't like to measure stuff and that, but you're sort of basically I'll wait to see the gas man walking by. Gonna read my gas meter, I guess. Kind of gave me a scare there. I looked up and see his head walking by the window. Okay, shaded spruce is done. Okay, let's go on to, now I'm going to use, second set, I'm going to use Crumb Cake. I'm going to do this 2-layer smaller holly. So I'm going to use Crumb Cake for the background, the lighter color. And just make sure you're loaded up good. Got the stem going in the right direction. And you know, there is no right or wrong to do this. And you do this a couple of times. You'll get the feel for it. You might like something, you might not like something, you might want to change it. Go for it. This is a gorgeous stamp set for this idea. Okay, I'm copying and sharing. I saw this from a gal in the UK that did this, and it just fascinated me. I had to get out and experiment with this, and I just love the results. Okay, so now I'm taking the second overlay, and I'm using soft suede, and I'm going to, whoops, totally missed that one, didn't I? Oh, I can get ink on there. Oh, well, that's pretty good. Okay. And you don't want to, when you're doing this, it looks better, I think, if you just be kind around, but don't try to be too precise with it. because then it looks too manufactured. Okay, berries. I'm going to use real red for the background of the berries. And this is going to give it some of that bright red color. So you're starting to get these green and red Christmas colors. And you know, just put them wherever it moves you. Kind of rotate the block around so your berries aren't all looking exactly the same. Yeah, maybe one there too. Kind of like the red, the berries. Looks pretty cool. I get some in here too. I might be doing overkill on the berries, but wait till you see what when we do the other colors. It just, you're gonna love it. Okay, I think we did that pretty good. Okay, on the second layer of the berries, we're going, this here, we're going to use cherry cobbler. These are a little trickier, but when you look on the stamp, there's the little dots where the stem of the berries are. If you kind of line those up, see how that, isn't that awesome? And if it's not exactly lined up, that's okay. Okay, got them all. Okay, now I'm going to use several splotches for this. I'm going to start off with, where'd my other splotch go? Here we are. This one. And I'm going to do some splotching with Night of Navy. And this is from the stamp set Painted Poppies. We've got two pretty little splotches there, and I'm going to use those two, okay? You can do it with whatever stamp set you've got. You're just trying to get background. So when you're with Night of Navy, you stamp off in the stamp. See the different shades of color there? So that's kind of what you're going for. So I'm going to put one here. One up there. Maybe another navy one here. Here. Maybe a really light one in the center. No, maybe I want a really dark one here. Down there. Maybe a light one here. Lighter one there. And yeah, that looks good. Like I said, there's no set way to do this. So now I'm going to take this smaller splotch. Whoops, I shouldn't have put that away. This guy. And I want to stamp off and just do some light filling in here. Isn't this pretty? I love it. Love it. All right. And if you go back later and you're thinking, well, I don't know. Okay, so now we're going to do some heat embossing, and this splotch is from the Color and Contour stamp set. I'll show you in a minute. So now what I'm going to do is you're going to heat emboss it. I'm going to heat emboss this with gold embossing powder. So I got my little everything ready to go here. Move my stuff out of the way a bit. Now, normally you would take your embossing buddy, spread this over so that you don't get powder stuck to where you don't want it. This ink might be a little damp, which I'm hoping it still is, and it'll pick up some of the powder. So when you emboss it, you get this wonderful. And if it doesn't, oh, it's okay too. Okay, so let me get myself. And I don't know about you, but how careful I try to be, I still manage to get embossing powder all over the place. So, you know, just make sure your dog's not underneath your desk when you're doing this. They'll end up with it too. Now, so I'm using Versamark. This is a little tricky because you can't really see where you're doing this. But I'm kind of, and I'm going to do half the sheet first. A little bit over here. I don't want this this ink to dry out too much on me. Okay, so I'm going to do this half, bring this over. Okay, this is going to be messy. I can't remember where I put the powder, so I'll just have to take a look. It's kind of, did I stick some up there? I can't remember. I think I did some over here too. That looks pretty good. Okay, I'm going to put the lid on this, heat emboss this, and then I'll do the other half. Just going to move this out of the way. And when I'm heating a big sheet like this, I've got an old cutting board from my camping days. It works great because I don't want that heat right onto my desktop. Heat up your heating tool. Okay, second half. Same thing. And if you're not sure, like there is a bit there, but I missed it first time around, so I'm just gonna stamp some more there. And just randomly pop this gold. And these splotches are far enough apart, you're not covering up or hiding so much as adding, you're just adding more texture to the background. I think one in here, I don't know if I did that one or not, kind of here. This kind of looks kind of bare there. Okay, let's see what I've got covered. Whoops. Well, we'll see what that, I think I kind of mushed that. Let's just do this again. I love this. This is kind of like fun. It's kind of magic because you don't really know how it's going to turn out until you do it. Okay, just get your powder on. I think there was, I'm going to do this spot over here. Whoops. Okay, let's get the rest here. Was there anything in here? Now I want some right there, so I'm going to stamp this and get some powder on there. Okay, it's kind of hard to see when you're doing this until you actually heat it up. And if you miss a spot, if you run your finger over and it feels a little rough, it's because it's still powder. Oh, I got powder everywhere, but that's okay. We can clean it up. Okay, part 2. Let's do this. Okay, well, I forgot to put my cutting board underneath. Didn't do too much damage, but darn it, I wish I had done that. So now there's your sheet. I'm going to bring this up a little closer. I hope you can see it. Okay, so then all you do is take your trimmer to make 4 cards out of this. 5.5 on this side, and 4.25 this way. So your sheets are, there's your, oops, gotta go this way. There's your card backgrounds. Cool, huh? So now I took one piece on this card. And I just experimented with different backgrounds. This is Crumb Cake. And I took the 4.25 by 5.5, trimmed it to 4 inches by 5.25, and then cut it into 3 pieces, and that gives you your space. And I glued it on here, and I ran the whole piece of, can you see the texture there? I ran that part through an embossing folder called Time Worn Type. On this one, I use Night of Navy on a white cardstock, and I just trimmed this layer here down to 1/8 of an inch, so you have this the navy just showing around the edge. And I did the same thing. I put this in the embossing folder to give it that lovely texture. Okay. On this one, I used the oops, turn it this way. Cherry Cobbler background cardstock, and I ran the piece through the Time Worn Type embossing folder first, and I cut it with the stack and cut measurements, and I'll show that to you down below. Okay, and on this one I used just plain white cardstock, and I ran the 2 layers. I glued it on right onto the 5.5 by 4, or 5.5 by 4.25 right in cardstock, and ran it through. I'm really getting into this. I really like that this texture shows on the back. And I used this beautiful die in this set. What did I do with it? I used this beautiful die out of the Leaves of Holly die set. Cut it out. I cut out in brushed gold, and then I left the cuttings in on the brushed gold layer, glued it on. Then I cut another piece in Whisper White, and I stamped it using my stamp apparatus, and using the Merry Christmas from the Brightest Glow stamp set. Holy cow, there it is. Merry Christmas. It's beautiful sentiment. And I used the To You and Yours This Christmas for the inside. And I just did the same technique with the garden green and shaded spruce with the holly leaves, a little bit of crumb cake and some cherries. Well, I'm not sure they're called cherries. Cranberries? Berries, anyways. Holly berries. And stamped a sentiment and cherry cobbler. And out of those 4, I'll show you another set that I did. Same technique. And that is shaded spruce background. This is cherry cobbler. And I used the sentiment out of the Leaves of Holly, and I heat embossed it with white powder on a piece of soft suede cardstock for the sentiment. On this one, I stamped with Versamark and gold embossing powder and heat embossed that right onto the cardstock. Had some fun with that. Don't think I finished the insides of these yet, no. And on this one, oh, how did I get them out? Oops. There we go. I did this with the Night of Navy background. On this sheet, you notice these 4 cards. I did not do gold embossing powder on them. I left them blank. I didn't do the embossing powder until I did the individual ones because I wanted this one, for example, to be gold to show more with the navy. And I did this one with silver. Stamped it afterwards, and then I used the same sentiment from the same stamp set on a Night of Navy and put that on. So that embossing step, you can leave that until you decide if you want to put the embossing powder. So you could use gold, copper, silver, white. White would be pretty. Never thought of that with that. But isn't that spectacular cards? I love them. They're so pretty. And I hope you give this a try because sometimes you get stamp sets and you think, gee, I don't know, you know. And this is really fabulous. So let me show you again what I just did. Oops. With these 4. So when I'm looking at these, I might decide, this one looks like, I don't know, I might use a green. I made a shaded spruce. This one might be a Night of Navy. And this one I might be cherry cobbler. Well, I don't know. You can mix it all up, right? You can do whatever you like. So you could lay the card this way if you want, or have it this way. This way. Same thing, right? So you could do these whichever direction you want the holly pointing, and when you're thinking about what kind of a sentiment you're going to put on it. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed this, and thanks for coming to my craft room. See you soon. Bye-bye.